Hi, I'm Michelle Nunn, and I am principal of Regents Theological College, and I am here with Ellie today. She is one of our amazing students who's just come to the end of studying her second year in our degree, and she has been on placement this year as a chaplain. So I'm going to ask her a few questions, and she's going to share some reflections from her placement as a chaplain in a prison, a women's prison. So, Ellie, before we talk about the placement, I thought it'd be really interesting just for you to share today with those who are viewing this online how you came to Bible college. Yeah.
Yeah, so both my parents are in the Church of England. They're both ministers in the Church of England. But I went away from my faith for a bit when they were first ministers, and then as I found my way back, I joined an Elim church. I joined Hope Corby, which was amazing for me. Did a few missions and that sort of thing. Never thought I'd go to university or anything, but then ended up here at Elim Bible College through Hope. Yeah, they connected me.
Fantastic. So you've not just done 1 year, you've done 2 years now. How have those 2 years been?
Yeah, they've been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I've been doing the church leadership track, and it's just been fascinating. And yeah, I love the relational side of it, where you just really get to know your lecturers and you can pick their brains over lunch and that sort of thing.
Brilliant, brilliant. So this year in the second year, you got to do your
Yeah.
placement and you chose a, a chaplaincy placement in a prison. So tell us why you made that choice.
Yeah. I did look at some churches as options for doing placement, but I think before I'd come to college, I'd had quite a bit of experience working in churches. I'd had some amazing opportunities um, to do that sort of like church experience. And I feel like there's somewhat a calling on my life to work with vulnerable women. And so finding a prison nearby that was a women's prison, just reaching out and getting in contact and hoping that they'd kind of come back to me with something was why I ended up there. Yeah, and it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay. So just thinking back to your first day attending on that placement, had you been in a prison before or
Mm.
anywhere like it? No.
No,
Yeah.
nothing like it really.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a big shock, and just from the walking through the gates to the first time and kind of trying to pretend like I knew what I was doing, but not. It was quite intimidating and
Hmm.
really eye-opening and sobering.
Yes, yeah. I think back years ago, I took some leaders, and there were senior leaders from across a community into a prison, and a prison that had various categories of prisoners plus sex offenders, and I just remember how moving it was. Actually, they were directors of key public services and large organisations, and actually as we left, people were in tears because it is such an arresting experience. I mean, it is quite hard as you're walking through doors and they're being locked behind
Yeah,
you. That sense of powerlessness
definitely.
that you can feel in that environment. So, what was most sort of shocking and arresting to you in on that first day?
I think across prisons in the UK, women's prisons don't have categories,
Hmm.
and so they're all in together, which is fascinating. It's fascinating that you actually can't tell the difference, really.
Yes.
Like, as you talk to them, some of them are very open and others aren't. And there are tell signs, but
Hmm.
they're all just people when you kind of get to know
Yes.
them. You can't make assumptions or anything. You just Yeah, I think the other thing that was very fascinating was I had to get quite a high level of clearance to be able to go in. And then I had to carry keys, which, yeah, was scary, being responsible for
Hmm.
making sure the doors were locked and having that kind of authority and access. Yeah, and another thing that was really interesting was getting used to them calling me Miss all the time. And
Okay. Hmm.
a lot of the girls in there were, like, older than me, younger than me, same age as me. A lot of them were similar age to me, and, um, I mean, my heart was like, I just want to be alongside them, but there has to be that professional boundary as well, which was interesting. Yeah.
And I can't think of the statistics, but my understanding is that a lot of women might find themselves in there for benefits fraud and some things that might feel fairly minor in comparison to the other extreme, but they're all in together.
Yeah.
So a bit like when you're a hospital chaplain and you go past a bed and you don't know who you're meeting, where they're from, or even perhaps what they're suffering with. Is that the same in the prison as you're going round? That actually, uh, that you just don't know who you're meeting with and what their background is. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, people are in there for all sorts of reasons, as you can imagine. And then some are more open, other people are much more closed off. One of the jobs I had to do as a chaplain was like go around and meet the new prisoners who had just come in, and you kind of have to find out a couple of answers to certain things. And one of them is this your first time? And that's always interesting, kind of their response to that. And I think the most shocking one was no, this is home, and I don't mind being on the streets over summer because it's warm then, but in winter I'd rather be in here.
Yeah.
And so they just do things just to get in a place that's got a bed, some clothes and food and that sort of thing. Yeah, that was really shocking.
And so that is shocking because it's a life choice, isn't it? And I can think of someone who broke into a church building and in Nantwich who actually said a similar thing to me. I went and visited him in prison with a a charity who were involved in restorative justice. And he actually explained to me that, in his mid to late 40s, he was more comfortable in prison, that actually that had been the safest place for him, really, in his life, which is shocking for those of us who have never had that experience. And just speak of the work that's to be done in this country around offending and how we rehabilitate people, isn't it? And the support that people need when they come out. So other shocks for you?
I think some shocks, but in really good ways, were meeting people in prison who are Christian.
Yes.
There's people in there who have become Christian since being there. There's also people who, I mean, going into prisons and working around, offenders has made me such a safe driver. Like, I'm just so much more aware of how I drive. Because I think we can think of things like, oh, I'm only a little bit over the speed limit. But if you have an accident and you're just over the speed limit, then you are breaking one law. So then you'll end up somewhere like prison. And a lot of people in the prison system didn't expect to be there because it was just a little driving accident where they just did one little thing wrong. And I think I met a lot of them and they were Christians, and that was shocking. But what was amazing was I remember meeting one woman, and she'd just got a team together of people on her wing, and she was just evangelizing and loving people and just doing amazing work. And I mean, you kind of think, well, what am I doing if she's in here? And I mean, she's just making the most of her situation. And it was really shocking to see how she'd, found light in that. But really encouraging. And yeah, I mean, I had to kind of take a step back and think, I don't know, like almost stop my judgment on it, of being like, well, you've done something wrong. But I mean, we've all done things wrong.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's just what you do from there that matters.
Yeah. So, a real opportunity to sort of come alongside people, offer encouragement and support and hope, but also the gospel as well.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy sharing the gospel in the context?
I did. It was difficult because you can't really share the gospel in the way that you typically think you'd want to. You have to be very careful, especially around like other prison, like the prison officers and that sort of thing. But I had there was one girl, part of what I did there was just go around and do like welfare checks and check how the people who were at high risk of like suicide or just had really difficult mental health problems, I'd just go around and see them daily, just check up on how they were doing. And there was one girl in particular who all the time, she wouldn't say much. She'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good." I'd be like, "Oh, can I get you anything, like distraction packs, anything to colour in?" "No, I'm good, I'm good." And I was like, "Okay." And then one day she had like a family member pass away, and another thing we do is light candles with people. And so I was sent to light a candle with her. And I was like, "Well, this is going to be quick because she doesn't really talk."
Mhm.
And it was just incredible. She just it was yeah, she just got to know me, and she knew that I came round every day, or
Mhm.
every day I was in, and
Mhm.
like saw how she was doing and that sort of thing. And it was the first time she really opened up, and we like lit the candle together, and it was amazing. And then I was like, "Oh well, do you want to go back now? I'll walk you back." And she was like, "No, I don't actually." And then she just started asking me like, "Oh, like, can you tell me why you're a Christian? And
Mm.
can you tell me about your life?" And that was just amazing, because when people start to ask you questions, that's
Mhm.
when you can really, on the outside, you're like, "Oh yeah, of course I can." On the inside, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I've been
Yeah.
waiting for."
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was always real highlights. I had another experience that I actually wrote a paper about, which was really
Mhm.
fun, where I led communion alongside another chaplain. And um, we had a list of people who were meant to come to communion,
Mhm.
and only one of them showed up. But in the prison, they have the opportunity to go to like another faith group service
Mhm.
to give it a go. And so we had two people come along, one of who was of the Muslim faith, and another who had never thought about faith at all. And it was really interesting writing a paper, because, there's the whole theology of, should we have given them communion, and
Mhm.
that sort of thing, which was fun to research. But what was really amazing was, whilst my brain was going, "I don't know what I should be doing," I was kind of following the lead of the other
Yes.
chaplain, which was nice. I always had someone who was more experienced than me with me. Um, but after kind of leading this communion and reading some scripture for them, one of the girls who'd never experienced faith at all was like, she just said, "Oh, I never thought anyone would forgive me for what I've done, but clearly Jesus will." And I was
Mhm.
just blown away. It was like, wow, that's why we do it, isn't it? Um, yeah, it was really cool. I really
Mm.
enjoyed that.
So meaningful ministry experience and placement for you.
Yeah.
And so you do your placement in the college context, and then you get to do an assessment, as you've mentioned,
Yeah.
on it. So that enables you to reflect on your experience
Yeah.
and take away some learning from that. So I want to really ask you two questions around that. Is like, what was the sort of personal learning in terms of your spiritual formation for yourself? But then also, what was the ministry learning? What have you learned to do differently, or what have you built understanding of that you can do in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, first of all, ministry. Um, I think it's being consistent and
Mhm.
showing up
Mhm.
with, like, the girl who I went to see almost every
Mhm.
day, and she gave me nothing, to then her just opening up and wanting to chat for like an hour or so. Um, that really taught me that, people will move at their own pace, and
Mhm.
to really get through to someone, not only do you have to be vulnerable in yourself. um, I definitely learnt that kind of going to see these girls and checking up on them, like,
Mhm.
if they don't know who you are, or they don't get a glimpse of, obviously there's confidential parts
Mhm.
in it, definitely, but you have to be vulnerable to
Mhm.
create a space for that vulnerability. And yeah, that was definitely a big learning point in ministry, is even going into like leadership or whatever I do next. You have to be a vulnerable leader to an
Mhm.
extent where
Mhm.
you're comfortable with. Um, Otherwise, people aren't going to be vulnerable with you.
Mhm. That's
Um,
good. Mhm.
Personally, that's a good question. Yeah, I think that would be a personal one as well. Would
Mhm.
be kind of learning to be vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, I think the prison that I went to was about an hour and 15-minute drive to get
Yeah.
there, and then an
Mhm.
hour and 15-minute drive to get back. Um, and that was always quite challenging, because I'd be excited to go in and I really want to keep going in now that I finished my placement. I want to go in next year, but I kind of get up and be excited for it, and then I'd drive an hour and 15 minutes in rush hour and get there and just be exhausted, and just be feeling a bit like, "Oh, okay, we can do this." And I think it taught me a lot to just rest and make the most of them moments, especially in my car. When I was driving there, I'd kind of listen to worship music, pray. On the way back, I'd often put on a podcast because it'd be quite overwhelming, and I found I had to learn to process a lot. I had meetings with Luke, who's incredible, here at Regents, and kind of reached out to people and learnt how to process. And I mean, I saw some really difficult things, some really just things that I'd never seen before, and there was support, but I also had to learn to find that support myself and start to know how to share things. And I'd get back, and people, I mean, it was exciting getting to talk about my placement with people around college, but there was also things that I was like, well, I can't just tell anyone that I've seen this today, because that would really be difficult, and I don't want to put that onto someone else. Yeah, so I definitely learned a lot slowly, but also some things I had to learn really quickly. I had a situation with one of the girls where I saw a really difficult thing, and then that was like a video of something. I went to like a confidential meeting one time just for experience, and I saw this really difficult video, and then that same day I went and visited that girl, and she was very close in age to me, and I couldn't tell her what I'd seen. I didn't know that I was going to visit her after just watching this video of her. And it just hit me like really hard. And for a whole week after that, I really internalized it. I was praying for her all the time. I was like crying all the time. I mean, it got to go on my hours log, which was great. But yeah, it was really difficult, and I carried it really heavily. And then the next week I went in again and I saw her again, and she did not remember who I was. And that, I mean, in that moment, God did something amazing in me, where I was just very blessed and was able to just let it go. And I learned boundaries very quickly through that, and like how to carry things lightly, but also learn that things will affect me. And that's when I was really struck me that I needed to learn how to process things, but also keep things confidential. Yeah, but that was definitely a big learning curve, and personally just learned a lot of boundaries, and how to process, but how to rest. And yeah.
Oh, good, good. I mean, there's a lot in there, isn't there? Because in that sort of context, you're dealing with a wide range of personalities. Um, some of those personalities will be very genuine. Some of the personalities will know how to leverage their personality to impact you as well. So that's all part of the learning curve, and it's part of why we do placements, is for you to experience different ministry contexts as you've grown up in church, and then you've been involved in mission in the church. You've had experience in that church context. But then this gave you that opportunity to go and minister beyond the walls of church
Yeah.
in a very different context, a very challenging context. And it sounds like you've taken some real good learning from it. It's quite a steep learning curve when you go into a different context like that. You're taught the different um, you're taught quite quickly the things for your own safety and how you're to conduct yourself in the role. But then it is those things like, actually, what do I do at the end of the day with all of this? And it's much like church ministry. You can have those days where you've seen and experienced a lot, you're holding a lot, and then it's, well, how do I safely re-enter my normal everyday life and continue to be me without this thing affecting me? And that's a real learning curve in ministry. So I think a really powerful piece of learning for you in this journey. So you've talked about wanting to go in again next year. So this is something that actually has opened your heart to this ministry, not put you off. So that's exciting, isn't it? And you mentioned Luke as well. So I'll just say, so that everybody um, understands. Luke is our ministry practice coordinator, so he has a part-time role here at the college, and the role centres on actually making sure our students have good placements and opportunities to grow. So important for someone like yourself who has had time in church and been involved in many different things in church to get a opportunity and a placement beyond the walls of church. And so that's Luke's role. And as well as that, he focuses on making sure that our students get to connect with churches and church leaders in other places, and sometimes look at placements that could offer a long-term role. So a ministry and training position or a youth ministry position or church worker position that might come available, either midway through studies, perhaps a part-time role, or a full-time role beyond studies. So that's a very important role in the college to mention there, and very helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Great as well that he's there to help you process and to sort of help you navigate that processing of boundaries as well. So well done. I think it's great to hear your experience. So chaplaincy, is that a long-term plan for you?
Yeah, I think to an extent, definitely. I mean, I definitely in like a pastoral sense, just I'm not I'd always say I'm not as gifted in the kind of getting up on stage and doing a preach. I have done it and I'd love to do more of it, but walking alongside people, going for coffees with people, that's much more something that not only do I feel more comfortable with, but I just really enjoy it. And yeah, I think chaplaincy, and I'd love to keep going into prisons. I'd love to work closer with women and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, so definitely to an extent. Yeah.
Great, great. And I think, it is part of the experience of Bible college is learning where you're called to, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're all gifted in different ways. And we've been made by God with a purpose in mind, and finding out how we fulfill that purpose is a key part of Bible
Yeah.
college. So, and he can start you in one place and move you to another over time and develop your giftings as well. So that's something to remember. Um, for you then, you're looking into your third year.
Yeah.
So what does third year hold for you?
At the moment, I'm in summer and I'm looking at my dissertation
Mm,
very lightly. I'm hoping to do a bit more preparation for it. Um, I'm hoping to keep going into prison. If everything works out, then that would be amazing to be able
brilliant.
to still go in there and do it not as not as like a formal thing. I probably won't write my dissertation exactly on that, but I'm hoping to write a dissertation around kind of vulnerable women and that sort of thing. And it's definitely opened my eyes to areas of that to research. Yeah, so that's kind of what my next year looks like.
Yeah.
I'm planted in a church in Worcester, really enjoying that, being on their team as well, just getting to know people there. Yeah.
Mhm. I know there are opportunities in the church there with
Yeah.
vulnerable women as well.
Um, yeah, there definitely is. There's definitely talk of it as well.
Mhm,
I serve on the kids team. I've just joined. They've got like a women's cluster, so
mhm,
like a small group, but just for women who kind of want to connect with other women. I'm the youngest in that group by far,
mhm.
but I really enjoy it. Yeah, just getting to know them, and we kind of talk about what each of us do in our like in our callings, in our contexts, and also looking at ways that we can do outreach as women into communities and speak a lot about like vulnerable women within that. So that's really exciting.
Brilliant. So, well, it'll be interesting to see how the next year shapes you and how God prepares you for the next steps as well. But it sounds like you've got a very rich and full life, and that you're meaningfully ministering and gaining more experience whilst you're here at Bible College as well. So, well done.
Thank
And
you.
look forward to hearing some more in the months ahead.
Thanks.